Us now, trial attorney and legal analyst Misty Marris, along with Joshua Ritter, host of True Crime Daily Sidebar podcast. He's also a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. To you both, thank you. Misty, let me start with you. Is it unusual for the judge to allow the jury to go tour the crime scene as they're doing this morning?
So under South Carolina law, the judge is permitted to allow a party to allow the jury to tour the crime scene if one party requests it and the property has not changed materially since the time the incident occurred. So it is an unusual circumstance, but if a party does request it, judges have that discretion. And we've seen other high-profile cases where juries have been permitted to tour the area. For instance, O.J. Simpson and Parkland, Florida. So it's something that definitely happens. And in this particular case, the visualizing the testimony may be even more important. And I say that because the spatial distances between the house and the kennels, the way that the kennels are set up, this could be very, very relevant to the case. And the purpose of a site visit is to allow the jury to have the opportunity to visualize the testimony. And on the heels of yesterday's expert testimony that we heard, what we call the battle of the experts, this could be something that could be very helpful to the jury. And look at that, all of those people that are lined up who have been following the trial, they're interested in seeing the property. I'm sure the jury very much so is as well, because it's a witness in this case for sure.
Right, and we're looking at a scene from above the property right now. It is expansive. There's a lot there. And I saw, Joshua, you shaking your head as Misty talked there, agreeing that spatially the jury's going to get to see how far the kennel is from the house. Could you hear a gunshot? The defense wanted the jury to go out there and see Moselle. So I'm assuming the defense thinks that that will help their case. Where do you land on that? Is the prosecution worried that the jury is going to be seeing this firsthand?
Yeah, that was so curious to me that it was the defense pushing for this, because usually the prosecution wants the jury to have the most complete and clear understanding of what took place and what the crime scene was like. And there's no better way to do that than to actually go to the crime scene and see where did these shootings take place? How far away were people? How far away are distances on the property? And I agree with Misty, that plays a role here. This isn't like a typical crime scene where the scene itself is not so important. This actually is important to proving where people might have been and whether or not the defendant's story fits with what he's testifying to. So it was curious to me that the defense was pushing for it, because usually they play into the confusion. They want the jurors a little confused. They want them not dealing with as much evidence as they possibly could. And maybe some of them don't quite understand how things played out. And that creates confusion in the deliberation room. And then maybe that creates a hung jury. So I was surprised here that the prosecution didn't seem to object a whole bunch to it, but it wasn't like they were really on board. They talked a little bit about how the scene has changed, how trees have grown, and maybe that will affect things. But what I suspect is that perhaps the defense has something in store for closing argument where they feel that the scene itself will play a crucial role in their arguments.
Wow, that'll be interesting. Before we talk about closing arguments, Misty, Murdaugh's testimony, you could argue whether it was pivotal or not. It was certainly compelling. It was a bombshell as we sat here and listened to it. He admitted to lying to investigators about being at the dog kennels that night. That was the cornerstone of the prosecution's argument, that he lied. Is that going to come back and bite him, that he lied about something so big that he could be lying about these murders too?
Well, so one thing that the jury is charged, and we'll hear the jury instructions later today, but one critical component and one of the major functions of a jury is to assess credibility of all of the witnesses. And there's an instruction that says, if you believe that somebody is lying about one thing, you can disregard their whole testimony. You can believe they're lying about everything. You can believe some, part, or all of someone's, or none, some, or all of someone's testimony. So certainly the credibility component is a big piece of it. And to extrapolate further on that, when Murdaugh admits to lying about something so central to the case, that he is at the kennels minutes before the prosecutor says that Maggie and Paul are shot. Of course, there's always going to be what's hammered by the prosecutors. Why should you believe him now? This guy was lying, admittedly, by his own testimony. He lied to everyone about this, law enforcement, friends, family, and he carried on this calculated lie until his back was against the wall and he really had no choice because of the video. So look, there's going to be the opportunity to say, this guy is a liar. He lied about a central issue. Why would you lie about something like that, except if you need to cover something up? Now, by the flip side, I think in this case, the critical issue is whether or not the jury buys into time of death, the prosecution's theory on time of death. If they do, then by Murdaugh's own testimony, he's backed himself into a really bad timeline. But if the defense can raise that there's reasonable doubt as to the prosecution's timeline on time of death, and it could have happened later, and then he's on the stand and the jury believes, I think he's a liar, I think he's a cheat, but I don't believe he's a cold-blooded killer, well then they might be more likely to adopt, at least one juror might be more likely to adopt the defense perspectives.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.